the Board of Control for November 28th. Will the clerk please call the order?
Calling the roll for the Monday, November 28th, 2022 Board of Control meeting. It is 11 a.m. We have Councilwoman Nan Baker. Councilman Dale Miller.
Here.
Trevor Meckler serving as alternate for Purnell Jones Jr.
Here.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Armand Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer. Here. Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 21st. I will make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, let's go on to our first item.
First item is table item BC 2022-692, Office of the Medical Examiner submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award of a master contract with various providers and the total amount not to exceed $90,000 for expert testimony relating to autopsy and death investigations for the period of October 24, 2022 through December 31st, 2023, and recommending a master contract with said RFP exemption with Dr. Todd Barr in the amount not to exceed $30,000, Dr. Andrea McCullum in the amount not to exceed $30,000, Dr. Erica Armstrong in the amount not to exceed $30,000.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address the issue if I could. I'm aware that this was held at the last meeting as a result of potential having law look at the issue to see whether the coroner's office in Franklin County could be required to come and testify. And I did look at the AG opinion that came along with that, and it says that probably you could make the coroner from Franklin County pay his employees to come in Cuyahoga County to pay. But I have a different opinion. Not that I'm leading the legal argument, but I read the opinion, and I think you can distinguish those two cases and what happened in that decision from Franklin County before and the decision that anybody would make now is that I'm positive it didn't contemplate that there would be 75 autopsies from coroners who now work in Franklin County coming to Cuyahoga County to testify. And I'm positive that they didn't contemplate that there would be 3 pathologists who worked in Cuyahoga County and then went to Franklin County, and we require them to come back here and not be paid. So here's the situation that we have, is those pathologists, if they're subpoenaed to come to Cuyahoga County, they're not going to get paid from Franklin County. And if we require them to come here for probably a day, they're going to have to spend a day preparing for trial, that they're going to lose 2 days' pay each time they come here. I don't think that was contemplated by the AG in that opinion back then. Equitably, it's not. And more importantly, I would say to you that it's so important that the pathologists who testify in our trials in Cuyahoga County, that they come here with good mind, that they've been studied up, they prepared, they got ready to get in a trial, and they testify honestly and truthfully about what they have. We have great pathologists. They do a great job. We want them to come and testify that way. If they don't, they will come with maybe with a bad attitude and maybe not so prepared because they're being forced to get unpaid for 2 days. And it's going to give the defense attorney that little bit of crack that they look for when they're doing these murder trials. They're looking for anything to break through to make their case to hopefully find a not guilty. And we don't want that. Nobody wants that. I suggest that and ask that you pass this resolution and pay the pathologists to come from Franklin County for whatever time they got to pay them to do their job and send them back so we get the verdicts in this county that we deserve.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Are there questions from the board? Mr. Meckler?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate what Chief of Staff Mason is saying. My only hesitation about moving is that particularly the 3 council member reps on the Board of Control specifically asked for an opinion, and we haven't received it yet. And in talking with the law department this morning, I think they even agreed that it should be held. The law director was even contemplating potentially talking to the prosecutor's office about seeking an additional attorney general's opinion. And I think my understanding too, 1 or a couple of these have already testified in a couple cases. So I know full well we might have to pay those, but I still would recommend that we get the opinion from the law department that we asked for, because we've been asking for it for a couple weeks now, and I would prefer we wait for that.
Is there anything you could put forward in light of what we heard so far?
This is Jared Zabrotowski from the Law Department. Trevor is correct that we haven't issued an opinion yet on this matter, and we don't have one presently to issue. It is a complicated issue. There's a lot of variables at play, and it's very difficult. So that's why we haven't been able to come up with an answer for the Law Department yet.
But clearly, we're going to have to pay the people that have come so far. And how are we going to pay them if we don't move forward with this? So, I mean, what's the harm of moving forward so that we're not unfairly penalizing anybody or
I'm
as
just
Bill
worried
said?
also about the precedence that this sets in terms of what happens with the sheriff deputy or whoever, whatever position we talk about that leaves for a different county, different city, and we need them to come in for certain things. And I'm not disagreeing with, because I've talked to Bill about this, I'm not disagreeing with the concept of that, but I think out of fairness to the board here, we did ask for an opinion, and I don't believe we should move until we have that opinion.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues?
Yes, I would like to ask of the law department whether you think that we could have an opinion by next Monday.
This is Jared Zabrotowski from the Law Department. Again, I would have liked to have had one this week, but with a shortened week and a lot of things going on, I was not able to complete it. I always want to say yes, that I think we would have it by next week with a full week. But right now, I don't want to be wrong. I think we should be able to. I said that last week. And I don't want to make a promise that I can't keep.
Well, let me ask
I
you.
can tell you,
Let me ask you this, if we approve this today and your opinions comes one way or the other, we can always cancel it. I mean, the whole thing, by the time this all gets through, is gonna take a little bit of time, will it not? Will that 1 week matter if we move forward today and then we find out it's different? We can always cancel the contract or not enforce it. Is the week really the issue, I'm asking?
No, I think the issue is that we haven't gotten the opinion yet. And I mean, law's been communicating with us. It's not a matter of miscommunication or lack of attempt by the law department. I don't want to make it seem like it's that. It's, as Jared said, a complicated issue. And I mean, we've talked to Greg and Jared probably a half a dozen to a dozen times over the last couple weeks, and we understand they're working on it. But I think some good questions came up a couple meetings ago on this, and I know some of the council staff have had discussions with the prosecutor's office too on this. So it's a complicated issue, and I just think we should have that opinion before we move on.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Please.
What if the opinion came back as the AG opinion came back and said that you have to they have to pay them in Franklin County? That still doesn't obviate or change the facts that you're gonna have these pathologists, these doctors, come to Cuyahoga County and spend 2 days and not get paid. That's not a good scenario on any front, let alone what their testimony is going to be, because that's essentially what we're gonna tell them to do. We're gonna send you a subpoena, and you're gonna have to come here, and you're gonna have to testify and not get paid.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, Councilman.
I think that Chief Mason was persuasive. And it's very likely that I would support an answer along the lines that he's recommending, regardless of the legal opinion. However, I don't think this is a one-shot deal. I think that there's going to be similar circumstances like this happen in the future, and I would like to understand the legal ramifications of the issue before voting on it. So I support holding it till next week and seeing if we can get the legal opinion here and deal with it at that time.
Any of my colleagues, Mr. Porter?
If
Or-
I
or-
may,
or-
I just want to agree from what I've heard here today. I
Mhm.
think siding on the air of caution is always best, especially when you're having a legal opinion that has been asked and still not answered. So I would say another week is probably not going to make a difference, and it looks like the law department's going to work pretty hard to get us that opinion by next Monday.
Mr. Porter? anything?
If I could make the argument that entering into the contract doesn't obligate us to, seek out these services and pay for the services. The contract's written as a not to exceed contract, so we're not obligated to spend a certain amount of money on this. We would only pay for these services as they're rendered. As has been indicated, some services have already been delivered. There has been testimony given already. That's why the period goes back to 10/24. In my mind, voting for it would help us cover the services that have already been delivered without, obligating us to pay for these services further if that would be in conflict with whatever opinion the law department comes back with.
Would you like to move forward with a vote, or, I mean, we can certainly do that? I think what Paul says brings up a good point as well. Are we not gonna pay the two people that came, and I'm sure maybe the cases are still ongoing, I don't know the
There's
facts.
75 pending.
Yeah,
I still would recommend holding it. I think some of my colleagues on council staff has questioned their ability to even accept payment for the services, so I'm not comfortable voting on this right now.
you have any comments or anything?
I would add that if you hold the vote and the 3 council members vote against it, then it automatically goes to council, and that would probably be a longer process than holding it for a week.
Okay.
If I
Karen?
also, this is the, 28th of November. A week ago was still November, and this is October. So this was late coming to us anyway. So it's not like there was an urgent need to get this passed. We're already 2 months, over 2 months, when this was 10/24, 11/20, about over 30 days before it even came to us. So I don't think a week is going to matter. And that way we can get clarity why it's a confusing issue. I would be interested to know why it's confusing. Seems pretty straightforward, but if there is a lot of issues with it, then we should know what they are before we say yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think we can wait a week.
Okay.
I think that would be fair.
Okay, then we'll hold it for one more week.
Thank you.
All right. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-712, Personnel Review Commission submitting an amendment to a contract with the Archer Company LLC for classification and compensation analysis for the period of December 5th, 2016 through December 4th, 2022, to extend the time period to December 4th, 2024, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $50,000.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Albert Bushahini with the Personnel Review Commission. As Cheryl said, we're requesting a 2-year amendment to the Archer contract. The purpose of this extension would be to continue evaluations of classifications in a non-bargaining classification plan and general compensation services.
Thank you, Albert. I know it goes back to 2016, and I've been telling this to a lot of the team members underneath me that, it's time to refresh that date, because we got a new executive coming into town, obviously starting in January. I probably didn't get to reach out to you on that item as well, but I understand the need for it. It's more or less bringing it back as an exemption to go forward using Archer, just so we can start, going back to 2016 is a long time. And now it's gonna be almost 10 years by the time this is, 8 years by the time it's done. Does any of my colleagues have any questions on the item before we continue, or? Yeah, it's just time to refresh this date.
Are you talking about a new contract, or are you talking about an RFP?
Just I think if you're, maybe next time coming with an RFP exemption, saying we've analyzed and why, and then that way we don't have to constantly look at this 2016 date.
Sure. We at the PRC have actually, we look forward to issuing an RFP. We have no problem with an RFP. But when you evaluate pay grades, you're using a point factor system that's unique to each company that you would bring in. So that therefore, you would have to reevaluate all 360 classifications. That's going to cost about $350,000, and once we secure that funding, we'll be more than happy to go out for an RFP.
What I meant though, Albert, is not for to go out for a full RFP, but do an RFP exemption and say you want to continue with Archer for these reasons. Because yeah, and it'll be a new contract start date instead of, you know, going back to 2016, it'll be starting effective whenever, 2022 or.
Gotcha. I see your point
Yeah,
now.
you won't have, you know, and then the board can approve your exemption, because we're basically gonna approve it right now. So, but I'm just saying for next time.
understand
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I believe, Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Sure. Next item.
Next item is a new item, first item, BC 2022-723, Department of Public Works recommending an award on RQ 10057 and enter into a master contract with various vendors and the amount not to exceed $200,000 for can liners for various county buildings effective upon signatures of all parties for a period of 1 year with Josh and Paper and Company Incorporated and the amount not to exceed $100,000, and Speedy Office Supply and the amount not to exceed $100,000.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is a approval of a split award contract with Josh and Speedy. It's for the county's can liners, our trash bags. Normally, this comes forward as a 3-year contract, but in lieu of all the supply chain issues related to this particular market, which is resins, polyethylene, we're only going to do a 1-year contract with the option to renew 1 or 2 additional 1-year periods. We're going to split this to 2 vendors, which historically we've only gone with 1 vendor, but by going with 2 vendors, you know, it's a different type of strategy to hold both vendors accountable with the continued supply chain issues.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Are there questions from the board? Seeing none? Oh,
One question
yeah.
I had, Tom, was, do you think, because you're doing the option years, if something improves with the supply chain, would you be interested in bidding this out again if you thought it would result in more favorable pricing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, we went out to bid earlier this year for this commodity. We only had 1 bid submission. I think most vendors in this market were hesitant to provide a bid and proposal. So we re-strategized a different marketing platform, and we actually got 6 bids for this particular one, when we're awarding to 2. You know, I think we're gonna bring in these vendors for different quarterly QBRs, quarterly business reviews, and we'll analyze the different market conditions. I've got a lot of colleagues in the market that I stay in touch with in the private sector that also monitor the different raw materials. So if there's definitely a decrease, we will explore rebidding.
Good. Thanks for, you know, thinking a little bit outside the box when you went back out for this. I
Yep.
think this is a good item.
Okay, great. Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-724, Treasurer's Office submitting an amendment to a contract with Meter Public Funds Incorporated for investment advisor services for the period January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2024, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $300,000, effective upon signatures of all parties.
Good morning, Dominique Tatum, Fiscal Office. This is a 2-year amendment with Meter Funds. This pretty much is a contract that's utilized by Treasury for investment advisory.
Hey, Dominique, thank you. Are there questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-725, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in award recommendation to MNJ Technologies Direct Incorporated and the amount not to exceed $14,724 for a state contract purchase of 84 HP P22H G4 monitors, accessories, and 12 HP Essential docks for the fiscal office, and recommending a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Janelle Green, Department of IT. This purchase is a state contract purchase for monitors and peripherals for the fiscal office. This will be in use for the move to another county building for the appraisers. I think they're entering into the new appraisal period, and this will help them complete their work. And also to correct the funding source, it is real estate assessment, which is not general fund.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. Are there questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve the item as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Porter. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-726, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Entrust Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $29,854.65 for the purchase of Entrust Managed SSL Enterprise Account Certificates to provide secured transmission of data on Cuyahoga County web servers for the period October 28, 2022 through October 27, 2023, and recommending a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This particular vendor has been in use by the county for a good while. They provide security certificates on our websites, which is another layer of intrusion protection that we have to stop people from trying to get access to county data. It is an approved TAC standard, and which is why we presented it as an RFP exemption.
Thanks, Janelle. Questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item's approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-727, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in award recommendation to Royal Media Network Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $34,600 for 10 Polarity server licenses, 1 Polarity client license, and 1 Polarity support services license, and recommending a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This item is another layer of protection for the IT infrastructure and our data, again, to protect it from intrusion. And it's a one-year PO for those services.
Okay, questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-728, Department of Information Technology submitting an amendment to a contract with Endicott Microfilm Incorporated for countywide maintenance on Kodak scanners for the period July 30th, 2018 through August 7, 2022, to extend the time period to August 7, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $207,243.50.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This contract is late. We were trying to actually have a project to move the scanners that we have onto another vendor that we already use for our printer and copier services. Unfortunately, the manager that was actually facilitating that project left, so we kind of were just like scrambling to put it together and to get this in front of you. We are continuing to work on that project to get those departments onto another contract once we agree on equipment, scanners, and things like that, which we think will be cost effective for the county. But until we get to that point, now we wanted to renew for another year, just to buy us some time in order to complete that project.
Janelle, can you confirm the funding source? I got 82 and 8.
There's.
Is that 18 or is one of them wrong?
I'll have to confirm the funding source. There's not IT money. So some of it is fiscal. There's fiscal, board of revision, and also the clerk of courts are on that. I believe most of it is general fund for them.
There's a whole,
There's a slew of them.
yeah, there's like multiple.
There were several.
But combined, wasn't it 82% general fund?
I believe so. I don't have that in front of me, but I can confirm
No,
after this.
it's probably 90, because 70.
Either 92 or.
It's 92 because courts are
Yeah,
21.
Exactly.
Okay,
I think
good.
that's just,
so let's, we're going to amend that to 92%
Okay.
general fund. I'll take care of that. Are there questions from the board first?
Where are these scanners at? Different places?
Oh, there's different places. So there's Lakeside, there's the Clerk of Courts, Board of Revision, there's the archives also. So there's some kind of like spread all over.
These are owned, the county
Yes, they are,
owns
the
these,
county does own these particular
opposed
scanners.
to the blue, where we're
Yes.
leasing.
Right, so we were trying to figure out if we can convert them over to the Blue Technologies contract, and what does that mean? I was working directly with Blue and Jim Sebis to see if we can get, because a lot of these departments agree with us, we're like, this is kind of expensive. We wanted to get them onto something that is more cost-effective and actually having local support versus this outfit is out of Cincinnati. Want to make sure that they can get to these individual departments quicker.
Okay. Final questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item as amended with 92% general fund, 8% real estate assessment fund. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paul Porter. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-729, Department of Information Technology submitting an amendment to a contract with Monsudo LLC for a cloud-based software tool to identify accessibility and quality assurance issues for the period December 7, 2020 to December 6, 2022, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2025, to change the scope of services and for additional funds amount not to exceed $86,211, effective upon signature of all parties.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. We are requesting an amendment with Moncedo, bless you.
Sorry.
An amendment with Moncedo to extend time for this service. The service is actually ensuring that our websites are in compliance with federal guidelines for, in regard to website compliance and governance. It's, again, a federal statute to make sure that our websites are ADA compliant, and this is a software that will allow us to do so. And this is the constituent-facing websites.
Okay. Thank you, Janelle. Questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Macular. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item's approved. Next item. Thanks.
Next item, BC 2022-730, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services recommending an award and enter into a purchase order with Industrial Video and Control Company in the amount not to exceed $131,500 for the purchase of 2 self-contained mobile camera surveillance units for use by Criminal Justice Information Systems.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And these cameras are used throughout Cuyahoga County. They can be deployed at gatherings, events like major sporting events, community fairs. If there's any, we've used them for the presidential debates in the past, marathons, protests, and rallies. And the nice thing about them is that they reduce the number of officers that actually have to be at a location. They can set this camera up, and then it transmits to whoever has got it set up to gives them eyes in the location without actually having to deploy bodies. The other thing it does is it also records what's going on, so if they need to go back for investigative purposes. So this is going to be deployed through the data warehouse. So any communities or county agency that needs to use them will just contact Chagrin Valley, who is the host of the data warehouse, and they go out and they get it set up for them.
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth. Is there questions from the board?
Just one.
Please.
How many do we have now?
We currently have 5, but they are quite old. We bought them in 2016, just before the RNC, and these are in constant demand. So the costs of maintaining them have been going up each year, and they're really getting towards the end of their life.
So the 2016, the 5 that we have, will they be just not used then?
Oh, no, we'll keep using them until they can't be used. And then, as one goes out, we'll scrap it for parts until it has no utility left.
With 5, I guess, archaic existing video, are 2 enough?
Well, what we're doing is that these 2, in theory, are going to expand the program so that we can actually meet the demand, because there are times when there are requests that they've already been deployed. And then where we can, because the first 5 were purchased with grant dollars, we're replacing those with grant dollars. So we do have 2 that we will be coming to you in February, but these were the first ones.
And these are paid through general fund?
This will be general fund, because like I said, these will be an expansion to the program. And the thing is there'll be no restrictions on the use. The grant-funded ones have to have a tie to terrorism.
I see. Okay, thank you for the answer.
Absolutely. Mr. Meckler?
That was gonna be my question, Mary Beth, because you find grants for everything. I was surprised that you were using general fund, because normally you would always find a grant.
We usually can. The thing is, the grant dollars have started to constrict. The other problem that we have run into is in the past, the region has gotten a formula based for our state homeland funding, and that changed this year. This year it went to competitive. And so these weren't part of the national priority, and we just weren't able to secure the funding for them.
And I just want to say, we've used them in Public Works for our bridge tour, and they've been great and a good tool for us, so we're supportive.
Very good. All right.
One further question, or just comment. It looks like there was, 160, and you received 2 bid responses. Were you, did you anticipate getting more bids, or?
Not really. In 2016, I think we got 3 or 4 bids at that time, and we are still running into issues, particularly with our technology purchases, that we're just not getting big responses because of supply chain issues. We have one project that we're doing for the Fusion Center, that the quote for that one, I think, Mike, they said they could, anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months before we could get that equipment. And there's just people, they're just not really inclined to bid right now.
Okay, very good. Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-731, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an alternative procurement process which will result in award to Clearview A1 Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $29,985 for a web-based social media and open source image recognition and alert platform, and 6 user licenses for use by the Northeast Ohio Regional Fusion Center for the period November 29, 2022 through November 28, 2025, and recommending a contract with said alternative procurement request.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety again. And as Cheryl has stated, this is for public-facing social media and open source images. This is used by the Fusion Center. The reason for the alternative procurement is that we made a mistake when we did the purchase. With the new DEI requirement, we go through, we identify to see if there's any DEI vendors who could provide the service. And if we come up with none, we're supposed to get a approval for what's called a null search. My team member forgot to get that approval and went through with the procurement, and we did not realize that until purchasing was actually doing the approval. We don't believe that there is any vendor who actually, there's no DEI vendor who specifically could do this. This is a web-based project that is very specific to Homeland Security. So going through the process again wouldn't change the result, and there is an urgency because our current contract does end this week, so we need to get a new one in place. We did start the purchase quite early. We did lose about 2 weeks though because my staff was decimated by COVID and the flu. So.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Are there questions from the board? Mr. Meckler.
So Mary Beth, are there other vendors that can do this work, or I understand about the DEI issue, but.
The last time that we went out to bid on this, we got 3 responses. This vendor is $9,995 a year. They did not increase their cost this time. The last time, the next lowest vendor was over $15,000, and the next lowest vendor was over $50,000. So we're getting a tool that's critical to the Fusion Center, and we're getting it at a good price. And this will lock in the price for the next 3 years.
Councilwoman Baker?
Yeah, I was just going to ask for clarification on the question was asked if this was a new contract, and it was said, no, it is not. But on the backup, I believe it says this project is new to the county.
The backup is incorrect if it states that. This was a, this is an ongoing, this is a service that we've had for at least a year. Last year was the first time that we received it. And the functionality that the Fusion Center is getting out of this has really increased the demand from the community.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Any final questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Do I have a second?
Second.
I believe it was Councilman Miller, seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-732, Department of Workforce Development submitting an amendment to a contract with Cuyahoga Community College for the Youth Technology Academy in-school youth program for the Comprehensive Case Management Employment Program, Employment, Education, and Training Services for Young Adults in connection with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2023, to change the terms and for additional funds and the amount not to exceed $210,000 effective upon signature of all parties.
Good morning, Mary Kelly from Department of Workforce Development. So Tri-C Youth Technology Academy provides services to approximately 30 students of in-school youth, ages 14 to 18. The program focuses on barrier removal and workforce preparation, and also for students to potentially go on to college. It provides college-level STEM classes, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, taken while the participant is still in high school. Services include assessment, transferable college-level credits, work experience, and a variety of flexible scheduling and location arrangements for students. It is WIOA 100% federal funding.
Thank you, Mary. Questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Macular. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-733, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons Incorporated, DBA Frontline Service, for coordinated intake services for individuals and families in connection with the Emergency Solutions Grant Program for the period September 1st, 2021 through January 31st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $500,000.
Good morning, Erin Reardon, Office of Homeless Services. This is an amendment to add federal grant funds from HUD. We received them very late. We didn't get the executed grant agreement until September. So this actually dates back to February 1st, because HUD is exceptionally late this year in issuing their grant amendments. They're always late, but they've outdone themselves this year. So this is an amendment that will provide this necessary service. They're an identified provider in our HUD application.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paul Porter. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item's approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-734, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with TripLog Incorporated for a computerized system to remotely record, submit, and approve travel mileage reimbursement for approximately 950 staff and various divisions within the Department of Health and Human Services for the period November 15, 2020 through November 14, 2023, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $20,000.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of Children and Family Services. Again, this is a contract amendment with TripLog Inc. to add funds in the amount of $20,000. During the height of COVID, frontline staff were unable to access the electronic mileage system without physically having to enter the building. So we originally found this provider. We procured TripLog as an emergency purchase, which allows for remote mileage entry, approval, and submission. The system has proven pretty successful for our frontline staff.
Okay, Marcos, thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Mackler.
Marcos, do you know, or have you guys looked at how much time it has saved you in general, just in terms of the processing time, now that it's all electronic?
I don't know if that has been done, but I can check with
That's what I'm assuming the
department.
amount of time it has saved your business team,
Right.
in terms of processing. I just was wondering.
It's probably
And
paying
I-
for itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Public Works is interested in looking at it as well.
Yeah, we just set up a meeting for Friday, actually, to talk to you guys about using it for our staff as well.
And one thing I wanted to mention was, I think the last time we amended it, there were additional departments within HHS that also added staff people to the contract. So it's through Division of Children and Family Services, but it's been successful enough that other teams within HHS have, started using the system. So,
Yeah, the other
which is a
members were,
plus.
right, the other members were for senior and adult. Unfortunately, because of leadership changes and the person that they were going to run the program for senior and adult, they haven't rolled it out completely. They've started piloting it, but this is still primarily with DCFS. But it will be rolled out with DSAS this year.
Great, sounds like a good investment. Any final questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Moving on to exemptions.
Next item, exemption BC 2022-735, Department of Public Works recommending an alternative procurement process which will result in an award recommendation to factory authorized dealers in the amount not to exceed $475,000 for vehicle and equipment repairs, parts, and services effective the date of board control approval through December 31st, 2024.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is the alternative procurement that we do, often for our factory authorized exemption program. This authorizes Public Works to have factory authorized dealers do repair work or provide parts for factory equipment. It could be vehicles like Ford vehicles or Jack Doheny jet trucks. It could be HVAC or boilers like Trane or Tomlin. The pump stations, we have multiple different factory authorized dealers that they have to be the ones to do those repairs. We've always amended the old one, which dates back to 2016. This is a new one. It'll take us through the end of 2024 for $475,000. All awarded purchase orders will come before the board for approval. So this is allowable funds.
Okay, thank you, Tom, and thanks for updating it. Are there questions from the board?
Just one.
Please.
Has this increased since the last time it was asked, given the increasing prices and supply?
Yes and no, for the reason that the vendors are charging more, especially labor costs are going up.
Right.
But we're also trying to re-strategize. Historically, we've always had contracts such as like Johnson Controls hit this. We actually baked into the recently approved by council, the Johnson Controls contract additional contingency. So as we're getting more contracts in place, getting more vendors in place, the volume of this should go down, but unfortunately with the cost, yes, we're seeing an increase. So, we just have other bigger ticket vendors that we're gonna try to, get on board through some other platform.
All right, so the ask last time was similar to the ask this time.
Yes.
You just may ask for fewer, but more expensive.
Correct. So some of the vehicles, are jet trucks that cost $500,000 to $600,000 to repair. If it blows one of the engines on the actual jet, that could be a $25,000 factory authorized repair. So it's real contingent on the actual use.
Good. Additional questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is
Thank you.
approved. Moving on to consent agenda.
Consent agenda items BC 2022-736 and BC 2022-737.
Okay, board members, it's getting close to the end of the year. We're down. So are there any questions on the two items? Okay. Seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve today's consent agenda items as listed. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I believe, Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Moving on to other business.
No other business?
No other business. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment?
Then I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Opposed?